Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Going to answer some questions today, or at least give you insight information on a topic that I believe we all wonder about from time to time, but the opportunity doesn't usually present itself where we can ask those questions and get that insight. This is Deceased and Assist with Geraldine Oliverie. She's the owner of Oliverie Funeral Homes in Manchester and Jackson, New Jersey, and talking today about attending a funeral and some of the protocols. For example, no, I'm not really that religious. I don't really know what to do at my friend's funeral or somebody you're connected to. Maybe it's somebody at works. Somebody.
Yeah, could be friend, could be removed. Right. I'm not religious. What do I need to know for my friend's funeral? Right. I mean, if it's family, you kind of know your family members. That's kind of what you're doing, even if you're not religious. But friends and stuff, you're not sure. You're not even sure if they're religious, right?
Yeah.
No, there's like some basics that you should know, such as dressing appropriately when you can. You know the immediate family is going to be dressed really nice and stuff. And of course, they understand if you're coming straight from work. But if you plan on going straight from work or whatever, try to be reasonable. What could you wear that day? Unless your job's one of those, I need to change clothes. Well, then can you pack a change of clothes? I mean, I've had many people come into my bathrooms and go, hey, can I just go in? Oh, yeah, there's stalls, lock it, take your time, do what you want. It's fine. So you want to try and plan ahead if you can. I mean, you don't want to be that person coming in with the dirt and the concrete or whatever on your clothes. And you're like, hey, I guess came from work. Okay, take a minute to clean up a bit, just think about that. Try to be respectful of someone's customs, because one of the things is, even if you're really good friends with someone and you're like, they're not religious, I don't understand what we're doing, be respectful of someone else's choices. Maybe they weren't the ones making the decisions, right? So that could be something you have to think about. Maybe your friend isn't, but maybe their family is. But there are certain times, whether you are religious or not, that I would say you are religious. And that would be weddings and funerals that top the two list, right? Those are usually things you say, well, I'm not religious, but I want to get married in a church, a synagogue, or something else, not just the justice of the peace. Even if it's outside, I'm going to call maybe a clergy in to do it, out in the woods. But you're including clergy, right? Even clergy who is on the internet getting permission and certified to do it. They're a type of clergy, right? Even a life celebrant, it's a type of clergy. Also,
you know what? While we're wending our way through here, you mentioned about clothes, and I want to jump into that for just a moment. I believe sometimes we struggle with what to wear. You want to be respectful, but let's say you're not somebody that gets dressed up, or maybe you are coming from work. I see you're dressed in a, I will call it navy blue, darker blue. Looks fantastic. We don't always have to wear black to a funeral, right? Can we get rid of that right now?
I have people who wear the deceased's favorite color, maybe in a tie, a shirt, or sometimes I have people who butterflies are their favorite. They all come in with butterflies, or brooches or something like that. So no, it's different for every funeral. But do you really want to come in with flip flops and a bandana hanging out of your pocket, or the whole jingle jangle of 20 keys?
Right.
Just clean it up a little bit, just be mindful. The family is going to be very dressed. And funerals is where people take pictures because they haven't seen family in a long time. And maybe it's not with the deceased they're taking pictures. They'll say, all the cousins get together. We haven't taken a picture since we were 10. We're all in our 20s. Let's get a picture. So think about that. You might be in pictures. Get a little dress. Tattoos are, doesn't matter. They can be shown, not shown. That everybody's accepts tattoos now.
I think just the rule is just
piercings, but don't come in ripped, dirty clothing.
Just respectful. Doesn't mean that you have to be dressed to the nines, but just be respectful. And I have to ask this question, and it's kind of a crazy question, but it's based on what you hear. I heard one of the best places to meet people if you're single is at a funeral. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever heard stories stories of people that have met at funerals?
I have two stories.
Okay.
So my husband and I both worked in the industry, but did not know each other. He came to help at a funeral. He was driving a limo. That's how I met him. So did I meet someone at a funeral? I did. It was at my
Okay.
funeral, but we were working. And I have another gentleman that was my husband's cousin working at a funeral home. He did meet somebody's like once removed something and dated and married someone
Wow.
he met at a funeral. So, but that means if we are, so are other people. We just don't know about it because we don't know
Mhm.
who knows who and what the dynamics are and what's
Sure.
going on after they leave. But
Right.
I would say, yeah, people
Okay.
are. I
All
mean,
right.
if you're sympathetic and you're consoling and you know the family, you have an in, you happen to know the person. It's, obviously it's not the person's spouse who you're flirting with, but it's other people. And you're like, I've known this family for years. Why wouldn't I talk to so and so's brother, who's I think I've always had a crush on? Why wouldn't I?
Right.
Right?
You're connected, and it's also a very, call it a mask down situation. Like if you go to meet somebody at a restaurant, bar, whatever it is, a gathering, a lot of times people are putting on a facade. They're not really being them. I believe at a funeral, you kind of being you, because you're in that moment, and it's where you are. So interesting. All right. Well, thanks for
Yeah.
sharing.
Because people know they trust you. You're there. Somebody knows you. I can
Right.
trust you.
You're
Right? There's
there
a little
because you
bit.
care. That's the other
Yeah.
part. Thank you for saying
Hmm.
that. You're there because you care. So that somebody may see you in a different light. All
Hmm.
right. Interesting.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
So if we go back a little bit, I'm going to say, for funerals, Um, being that it tops the list as being religious with weddings, because even if we're sick or near death, that's when the non-religious become religious. We're praying whatever we think works. We've all been there where I promise you, Lord, I'll behave if you ever just give me blah, 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 right? Well, my wellness is what I'm looking for. But now, why do people put so much stock into Google and research before they purchase something, right? And reviews before they purchase something, but they don't put that much thought into, I'm going to a friend's funeral. What should I expect and what should I do, right? Why don't they? Why do they just show up and then there's, oh, I didn't know. Why are you surprised when you get there? Why not look it up? It's just that easy. Hey, Google, right? This way you're a little prepared. I think it's
Okay.
worth it and it shows that you understand the family and you understand how their grieving process is going and what their values are and what they put into a funeral. And I think that just makes you a better friend. It's not only about clothing, right?
Hmm. Okay. Fair
I
enough.
don't
I
think
mean,
I'm
these,
off the mark.
I don't think you are either. And so these are the things that we don't necessarily think about because how many funerals do we go to in our lifetime, right?
So just be a little prepared. So, like, what are the most common? Everybody knows the Catholics, the Christians, right? We embalm, we dress, we do makeup, we do hair, we wait till family is available. There's no time constraints for us, right? Family will participate in the ceremony, the mass, the church, at the funeral home, whatever. Eulogies are done, right? All of that, gets done. You see that in movies. It's common. Everybody knows that. But what are the uncommon ones that we don't know unless we're part of the religion, right? So around us, we have some common ones. The most common one after our Christian funerals, of course, are the Jewish faith. And the Jewish, they have 48 hours to bury. They say 24, but it's 48 hours because that's when the law says, hey, embalming, refrigeration, what are you doing? So they stop everything to make funerals happen. There's no, can we move it next week? Can we wait? No, even the highest ranking people or executives, they stop what they're doing and they make it to that funeral. They are the most crowded funerals I have.
Really?
Everybody comes. Oh, yeah. They stop. They believe in that they need to get their loved one to the right spot. So, like, they'll do a ritual washing called a tahara, and that's usually done by their peers of the religious community. The men do the men, the women do the women, and, prayers are said, some religious things are done. And it's really nice. The ceremony, of course, the rabbi, not a priest, not a cleric, it's a rabbi. And before he brings the family out, he does what we call kriya. And kriya, it could be the clothing or a black ribbon we give you. They do prayers. They cut or rip your clothing or the ribbon, and that is to signify the tearing of your heart, right? And you have to wear that the whole 7 to 10 days of Shiva, right? That's representing the mourning period, and you're tearing your heart and your clothing, right?
Hmm.
But also, what people don't know is there got to be 10 men present. It's called a minyan. If 10 men aren't present, the rabbi stops and he puts a call out, and then he calls the couple of men that are there and he says, good, call your friends, call them immediately. They need to get here. And they wait for that minyan to be present before they start prayers. And it's just the way it is. And then the Kaddish is at the end when we do that burial, right? Because they don't believe in cremation. And it's the final farewell. And even if you're not Jewish, we pass out those cards. It's got a translation and a pronunciation, and you pronounce and go along with the Jewish faith as well. So it's not, if you're not Jewish, you can't participate. They take prayers from others as well. It's good faith to them, right? And the eldest son is required to eulogize the family member who passed. And it could be at the grave, or it could be at the funeral home, or it could be at the synagogue. But he is expected to do the eulogy. If there's no eldest son, the rabbi does it.
The eulogy. Let's talk about that for a moment. If you're asked to say a few words at a ceremony, maybe your family friend, maybe it's your best friend. You know, these are things that many of us are uncomfortable with. You know, public speaking, what to say, how to say it. Any suggestions?
So a lot of people, what they do is they now have AI help them. They put the basics in, and then they get, some paragraphs and wording, then they tweak it. But they keep it on their tablet. So they practice, a little bit before, depending how much time they put into it. But it's very easy to put that tablet down on a lectern and kind of read it slowly and do it. Some are too emotional. And that's when I tell them, bring somebody up with you. Whoever, just even if it's not someone who's going to speak or take over for you, but you can hold their hand and get strength from that and then continue, right? And I always say, reflect on stories you know. Don't try to be a preacher. You're trying to talk about your loved one. So speak about what you know and how you know that person, how long you know that person, and what you did. There's so many different sides of every person. So if my husband and my children were to speak, it would be completely different if my friends were to speak, even if they only know me 10, 15 years, not as long as my children and my husband. They'd be like, no, this is the side of the mother you never knew. And I'm going to tell you about why. We behave differently with our friends than we do with our close friends or our children. We don't want our children to see a certain side of us sometimes, right? Because we're always parenting. So talk about what you know. That's the best way to be heartfelt and connect, right?
Well, even a story, if you're up there and to your point, Jerry, nobody knows it better than you. So that moment that crazy thing happened when you were 23 with your friend or whatever it might be, laser it, but tell that story. Because it's going to come from within, come from your heart. You're not there to entertain everybody. And you know what?
No.
They know the deceased, so they're going to say they would have done that or something connected to it. Yeah, just be real.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the Jewish also cover the mirrors because there's no self-reflection. You're supposed to be praying about the deceased. So they cover the mirrors, they take the cushions off the couch, they sit below everyone. One, you know who the immediate family is. Two, they're not supposed to be comfortable. They're supposed to be thinking about the deceased and the afterlife, right? Before you come in, you got to wash your hands. You're expected to bring food because they're not allowed to cook. So someone is there to heat up the food, cook the food, someone's always there to help. That's the Jewish faith. If I talk about Muslims, they don't cremate either, no embalming, but they do have a religious ceremony, and they do more of a chanting. They have a ritual washing and shrouds also. And the family and friends who wish to participate will do charitable acts to benefit the deceased in the afterlife. So we make donations to charities. They have to do acts of charity. So that's different. And that goes on for 40 days. And the casket, when they bury it, must be facing Mecca. And all the family will put 3 handfuls of dirt, where the Jewish will fill the grave. The family will do 3 handfuls, anybody who wants to participate, of dirt. The Catholics, they leave the casket sitting there. The funeral director watches them lower the casket and close everything, right? So and when we're at the cemetery, it's different points of views for different people, what they're comfortable with, and over time, how it's changed, right?
Let's talk culture too. Catholic faith is okay with cremation, in my understanding.
Even bringing it to church is okay.
But Hispanic cultures, even though they may practice the Catholic religion, in my understanding, they really don't do
That's
a lot
more
of cremation.
ethnic where they don't believe in it, because the Italians didn't do either for years. But then as it slowly changed and the Catholic Church accepted it, boom, everybody's is cremating. And they may be before church or after church. It depends how religious that person is. But you're right, the Hispanic are still very deep rooted in their faith, where they won't desecrate the body and burn it. It's
Okay.
ashes to ashes, dust to dust, but naturally, right? They'll
Gotcha.
have the viewing, the dressing, even a veil they'll put on them. Yeah, it's different. They're dressed in the best. That's like going to a wedding. You go to their funerals, they're dressed
Yeah.
to the hilt.
And
Yeah.
we talk a lot about cremation here, but I believe a lot of people might not realize that there are many options within cremation. It's you can have a service, you can have a burial, even though
Yes.
the deceased are cremated, right? There's many. It's not just you
So
get an urn.
for Catholics and Christians, it's still after the cremation, you should not be separated, and you should be put in the ground or a niche. You should not be in somebody's house, in somebody's closet, or anything like that. And that's why the Jewish, Muslim, and Hindu are no cremation. This is where you go. This is where ashes to ashes, dust to dust, ritual washings, ritual herbs, essence, oils, prayers. That's where all that takes place at the cemetery, so that you can continue beyond your earthly body, because they all believe the soul is leaving. So do the Catholics and the Christians, but they have learned if they don't accept cremation, they lose their sheep. The sheep say, if you don't accept it, I'm not going there. Well, I'm not going to mass. I'm going to be cremated. So why should I go? You don't let me in. You don't approve. So that's why they had to change to go with the flow. And they
Wow.
were losing money. $300 for a mass. And you're saying I can't come? Okay, that's money's out the door, right?
What are some of the more interesting rituals that you're aware of? And again, that's objectionable, what we consider interesting, but things that we might not realize. We're talking about a lot of different cultures here today.
So, like the Jewish don't believe in flowers, right? Like the Hindu only believe in flowers if you send them to the house, right? They don't believe in any of that. And just for a point of trivia, flowers were introduced in early funerals to mask the smell when family members were being laid out in homes. And even though they may have done embalming, it wasn't to what it is today. So you would still have that funny chemical smell. So
Wow.
that's how flowers got introduced, right? So the Jewish don't believe in viewing. So neither do the Muslim or the Hindu. You can view the body quickly before it's cremated or buried, but that's it. So that's all Catholics and Christians changing things up as they became more affluent and more money. What can I spend? So you see what in movies, and then who has the biggest in funerals and flowers? Mobsters in movies, right? Presidents in movies, right? Big high ends, police officers, firemen, right? So then we want that. Well, they have that, we wanted that, right? So that's how it grew, why not? But they do not do that. And they do these shrouds where we dress you in clothes. They do all natural cotton shrouds, because they don't want to put that in the earth. They want your clothing
Wow.
to break down. They don't want it, synthetic and polyester getting stuck to your skin and staying with you. No, they want more of a natural process. Whereas the Catholics, Christians have gotten away from that natural process, right? We put them in vaults, cement vaults in the ground. We're preserving them forever. They don't do that, the Hindu, the Muslims, and the Jews. No, you are in the ground, in the dirt, simple pine boxes and caskets, no fluff, because they want it all to break down naturally.
I find this so interesting, Jerry, even right down to why flowers were introduced. I had no idea.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Same thing. Embalming was introduced in the Civil War. It was arsenic, which we don't do any of that anymore. I mean, we have a lot more environmentally friendly chemicals and processes now. But it was done then to get these soldiers home, get them back. Because they're buried all over the battlefield too. But it was also used for Abraham Lincoln. He was on a train ride for 2 weeks when he died. He went all over the country. Arsenic was what we used. So that's how embalming grew from there.
Wow.
That's where it started. You know what else started from there? How to amputate. Civil War. How to amputate and survive.
Now that you say that, my mind just flashes real quick to even movies of Civil War time, and many of them show that.
Yep.
So that was a thing, I guess, where they just
Yep.
discovered how
to be innovative. You had to, we need every person. And if we could save your life, let's try it.
Wow.
Let's try it. And it worked.
What, almost out of time here, what do you overall want people to know if they're going to a funeral? I mean, let's say it's not close family, but it's connected to somebody, obviously, what should somebody know overall?
I bet they should just be aware there's other ideas and religions, and it's constantly changing with the new world and the internet. And don't put your beliefs on somebody else. Be respectful. Say, oh, this is okay. This is, I want to participate. How can I do that? And be respectful about that. Because people make different choices, and you should just be respectful and not think that's not what I would do. Can I put my 2 cents in? No, keep your 2 cents to yourself.
And is it okay?
Don't make somebody feel guilty.
Not everybody's super comfortable, but they want to pay their respects. If somebody goes to a service and pops in, says hi to the family, depending on the religion and the beliefs and what you're comfortable with, maybe paying your respects to the deceased in the casket, whatever it might be, and only staying for 15 minutes. Should we feel guilty, or if that's enough?
No,
that's
15
enough.
minutes is enough. It depends how long you know the family, and if you want to stay longer for your best friend who she's
Sure.
looking for you or for support, or for you to put the coffee on, clean the kitchen while she goes back to talk to family. You know your place. But if all you can give is 15 minutes and you're removed from that's all they need, because that line is just moving and moving, and they're talking to so many people.
You're probably doing them a favor.
Yes, you are.
Because
if
if
you
you
are,
don't-
they'll be like, I don't know, were they here? Sign the book so they know you were there, because they will forget. Like your wedding reception line, you're like, oh my God, that was a blur, right? This is a blur too.
How many times have you gone to a funeral? You don't really know anybody, the deceased or somebody closely connected to them. You don't even know who to talk to. You could start a conversation. That's awkward because of the moment and such. So then you start talking to the people which is probably the family of the deceased. And to your point, they got other people to see. So leave them alone.
Yep, give them a quick snippet, how you know them, and that's it. Because there are a lot of people who live in senior developments, and they make all new friends that their children and relatives know nothing about.
Wow.
Because they join clubs, right? They help each other. So the quick little, oh, your dad was in the Italian American club with me. He was the greatest guy. Keep it moving.
Keep it
You don't need much more than that. Oh, I'm so glad my dad had friends while he was here.
I love how you get to the point, and in such a very classy, eloquent way. I mean, because it is reality that we're dealing with here. You have 2 locations, Manchester, Jackson, New Jersey. This is your life. This is your family's life. Side note for anybody that doesn't know, you live above one of the funeral homes.
I do. Right.
20
Family owned, children help, they clean, laminate, they do everything. It's the whole family business here,
Yeah.
which I'm proud of, which I'm very proud of. But we are in Jackson and Manchester. We're growing. We're proud of that. And we serve all of Ocean County. If anybody wants to give us a call for further information or help, we're willing to help anyone.
What's your website?
OlivierFuneralHome.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here, sharing this insight. You are the go-to on this. There's nobody else we know who to ask for these deep details, and muchly appreciated.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.